Annyeonghaseyo, welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, three American romance novelists discussing all things K-romance from a writer's lens. We fangirl over our favorite actors and actresses, talk up our trope addictions, and nerd out on K-drama deep dives. We'll throw in a few K-pop and K-skincare recs for good measure, because why not ride the Hallyu wave all the way to shore? So grab some tteokbokki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hi there.
Hello. So, Leah, tell us where you are.
I come from a land down under. Yeah, so we're now taking Afternoona Delight International for a little while. Is that like a fun new step, I guess? Maybe if you're at home, it doesn't feel that different. But I am coming at you live from tomorrow. So,
right.
My workmates are very impressed because, you know, it's a day ahead in Australia from US time. And so one of my coworkers is like, so if you're in tomorrow, like, what does that mean? I'm like, it means I can see the future. And she was like, will the Warriors win game 5? And I was like, yes. And then she wrote back and was like, well, clearly you can see the future because they did. I mean, look, me even dropping that makes it look like I know more about what I'm talking about than I do. So let's be real. I don't know much about the Golden State Warriors, but they are playing something. Maybe it's the playoffs, I'm guessing, because it's like many games and they seem like they care. So they're doing something important right now.
This is bad. I mean, we're talking NBA, right? Like,
yes, it is basketball.
Yes.
It is basketball, yes.
Really sorry.
Much I knew.
So I don't know if it's like the playoffs or the run up to the playoffs, whatever it is. But the other big sports news that Amy did reach out to was that...
I didn't.
Yeah, you...
Megan did.
Oh, I thought you did.
What?
The Socceroos?
That was Megan.
That was Megan? Oh, I thought that was you, Amy. I was like, look at you knowing about soccer when you were
Megan,
but it was Megan.
Megan is
Sorry.
the soccer person here.
It was me.
But I was like, I guess like Amy really cares deeply about the World Cup as well. All that to be said, the Socceroos, the Australian soccer team, you know, it was a little dicey if they were going to make it into the World Cup. They lost some key games, but they have squeaked it out by the skin of their teeth and with their tiny little kangaroo paws grabbed a spot in the World Cup.
Their team is really called the Socceroos.
Correct. And the girls' soccer team is called the Matildas, like Waltzing Matilda.
Yeah, that's why it's so precious.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Australia game. I was my son and I both watched it. We were rooting for the Socceroos. We had fun watching the shootout because the Australian goalie was something else, and so yeah, I'm very happy for the Socceroos. I can't wait to watch them in the World Cup.
Yeah, so World Cup is when Megan's fall, right?
Yeah.
Because I felt like we were on this big run-up, and I was like, great, World Cup, when's it happening? And I'm like, oh, it's not for, like, a while.
Yeah, they get, like, a big break, and then it's...
because it's Qatar, right? And it's going to be too hot to play
it'll correct. So it'll be in Qatar, and I'm excited. I'll be rooting for South Korea and the United States and the Socceroos. I think that's about it.
New Zealand. I'm rooting for New Zealand, too. And it looks like Iceland's out, because I do remember Team Iceland was, like, visually stunning last time, so I was trying to figure out how they were going, and then I didn't see them in the lineup because they were like the Viking team of like my fantasies, you know.
Soccer shorts just do something to me. I don't know why.
No, it's true, because sometimes I have like worried in the past about like, you know, I never want to be in a position where I'm like fetishizing like Korean actors and, you know, idols and things like that. And, you know, we've talked before about that being problematic. And then I was like, honestly, I don't think I'm at a big risk of, like, fetishizing and, like, limiting myself to, like, you know, one type of person because my heart is very expansive. Mm-hmm. And I have, like, a giant Viking kink.
I mean, who doesn't? Truly, though, who doesn't?
Oh, my gosh. Watching The Northman recently, I have to say, it was just, like, I felt like I went to the movies and watched porn.
Oh, it was that? Okay, I have to check it out. Yeah.
It was bloody and not meant to be.
Glad you enjoyed yourself.
But for me, like, just, like, sweaty, hairy men taking drugs and becoming berserkers and becoming, like, wolf men that, like, attack things with their mouths. Like, they take over villages on drugs, far western Russia. Anyway, I've digressed enough for one episode.
No, sign me up. That
Our banter is either
amazing.
cat depression, mealworms, or my, like, disgusting Viking kink, where it's like, look, gore, like, It's not that I
Viking
love
cake.
gore by any stretch, but it doesn't even faze me in Viking stuff. I'm like, yeah, like, be brutal. It's just going to do it for me.
Yeah. Well, I was on
Fantasy life, not real life. I don't want the Vikings in real life destroying my village and enslaving me.
Look,
Let's get that out there.
I recently had a Viking romance, like, complete binge, where, like, I just wanted all the Viking romance I could get, and especially if it was labeled, like, Berserker romance.
The Berserker stuff is...
There's this one Berserker, like, shifter series. I'm talking, I poured through that thing. It is so good.
What do they shift into? Like wolves?
I think they shift into, like, wolves, but they're, like, fated mates, just, all up my alley.
Yeah, I'm here for it. It's definitely problematic, but you know what? That's just, like, the little slice of life, and problematic violent sexuality is apparently, like, my trademark.
It's like the dichotomy of it is just, oh God.
That is.
You know what? You don't only like one thing, and that, it shows that you have broad, expansive taste.
It's true. And those of you listening at home may feel the same as well. You may like a, sweet fish-eyed kiss, or you might be tuning into Kin Porsche, the Thai male-male love story, which, we'll touch on during the course of this drama today, which has officially gone off the rails in the best of ways.
Anytime we get to talk about Viking berserker shifters.
All right. Well, let's get into what we're talking about today, because today, we wanted to do something a little different that hopefully is going to be fun for all.
Yes. So we have different tastes here at Afternoona, which we think is a good thing. We have a host that will swoon with you over historicals, air punch with you during action scenes, and cry with you over heart-wrenching romances and scenes that take place in a tea room.
And watch them over and over again on YouTube.
Yeah. We know that our listeners...
a painful cry.
Yeah. We know that our listeners appreciate our deep dives where we all watch a drama and then give our takes on it, but we also do enjoy branching out to watch dramas that intrigue us individually, but we aren't quite sure yet that they are good for, like, a full pod watch. So tonight, we're each taking a drama that we have enjoyed recently and selling each other on it. And maybe you. Will Leah get us to watch slice of life angst? Will Megan get us to watch bloody Anbo Hyun? We will see. So first, let's talk about what drama or dramas we're watching now and how we feel about them.
So I am currently watching Tomorrow and Prison Playbook, both of which we're going to be covering on the pod soon. And I'm enjoying both very much for very different reasons. They're very different dramas, but I really love it. Megan, I know you've already watched Prison Playbook, so I know that you 100% agree, and I also know that you've started Tomorrow, so that I don't have to sell you very much on that drama tonight, but I'm going to still do so. But yeah, very enjoyable dramas for very different reasons, and I'm excited to sell you both on Tomorrow in a little bit.
So for me, I just wrapped Our Blues, which is the drama I'm going to attempt to sell you both on tonight. And the fact that I'm going to say it's like if My Mister and Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha had a baby tells me I have a heavy lift. But, the cast is big heavy hitters, from Kim Woo-bin making his comeback to his beautiful fiance, Shin Min-ah, to Mr. Sunshine himself, Lee Byung-hun, to one of the hardest working ajumas in showbiz, Lee Jung-un from Parasite, When the Camellia Blooms, and our meat marinator from Strangers from Hell. And, in this drama, she's actually like a feisty voice of reason and not a murderer or someone with, like, some horrible secret she's sitting on. So it's a nice change of pace. I'm also deep in Kin Porsche, which we touched on briefly. It's a Thai male-male that is currently off the rails plot-wise in the best of ways. All I'm going to say is last episode featured a BDSM sadist sex dungeon that had a hedgehog in a birdcage. Take that as you will. I'm also watching Insider, Kang Ha-neul's recent comeback. If it doesn't get canceled, there's a lot of controversy that's brewing right now among netizens. Yes, I know.
Oh, I didn't
know
this.
It seems as if Buddhists in Korea in particular are taking big issue with the fact that Insider has a lot to do with illicit gambling, especially in the first 2 episodes. And some Buddhist temples are featured as places that have illicit gambling taking place. So that's made some people big mad. I don't know, for me personally, it didn't feel like a sweeping statement on like the nature of Buddhist temples as like fronts for gambling, but yet, who knows? Sometimes when social media gets going, it can be difficult. So anyway, if it doesn't get canceled, I'll continue with that. And then I'm also watching Prison Playbook. And both of these dramas offer very different perspectives of the South Korean prison system. I mean...
the first episode of Prison Playbook, I'm like, so wait, they have a flat screen TV in their
Prison
cell.
Playbook's like, I think I just want to go R&R at the prison, where, Insider is not that. Yeah, Insider...
Okay, now do you understand? Now do you understand that after I finished watching Prison Playbook, I was I want to go to prison
Insider
now.
is definitely not making me want to even get remotely close to a prison.
Yeah, and just, there are, like, bad things that happen in prison. I don't want to go to prison, but I just mean Prison Playbook.
That prison,
it is
right? Like that one.
It is like a nice soft prison.
There's some, there's some stabbing, and
we'll be podcasting on this
there
soon.
Are bad
and
people
unpacking the the fact that there was a choice to make an idealized prison drama and what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Okay, so I just started tomorrow, so I'm not very far into it. Also really enjoying it, but again, I'm like still at the very beginning. It's definitely not a type of drama that I'm like feel compelled to binge, but that's not a bad thing. Right. It's a little episodic, similar to Move to Heaven, which is totally fine. Like I actually really, really enjoy dramas like that.
I'm gonna talk about that. I'm selling the drama.
Sorry, you're right, you're right. So, I'm also watching Kin Porsche. As Leah said, it is off the rails. I don't care. I am so invested in what is going on. I am so sad I cannot binge Kin Porsche. Like there's one, I'm used to like K-dramas that at least they give you like 2 episodes a week. 2. And you can kind of watch them back to back because I would wait till both, were subs and I would watch them back to back. Whereas Kin Porsche is just like, no, you get 1 episode. We are edging the shit out of you for this one.
It is true edging, but as much as I hate it, like I like the pain.
I also kind of love it because it gives me something to look forward to, like every weekend that I know I'm gonna get like my Kin Porsche.
And I can mull on the hedgehog and what it's seen in the sex dungeon for a week.
But Leah and I messaged each other after that episode and we're like, that hedgehog has seen things.
Like things no small mammal should see.
That's like with you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Megan, that's like you talking about in our Heat Levels episode about readers checking in with you and saying, like, did you leave the dog in the room while they were having sex? Like, well, what happens when you leave a hedgehog
exactly.
in the room?
Like, viewers will pay attention. Like, is this hedgehog just, like, hanging out, watching you, like, whip each other?
Thing, Amy, this wasn't, like, a hedgehog that, like, has other parts, like, in the drama, and they just forgot the hedgehog.
Hedgehog
like,
was there
somebody, who was doing, like, the plot
dungeon.
styling. Like, Megan was like, it's funny they didn't choose, like, a snake or, like, a pet that made
I was
sense.
like,
instead they're like, no, we're going with the hedgehog.
It's like a cute little pet.
So this is like an ornament of the sex dungeon.
Yeah, it's like, here's
a
a
decoration.
bull gag. Here is, like, chains. Here is, electric prods. And then here is the hedgehog, which, I mean, look.
Right.
And it was in a bird cage of some sort.
Yeah, the whole thing was weird. And I guess I was just like, who decided they're going to put a hedgehog in here? Like, why isn't it, like, what should have been like a pet scorpion? Like a snake. I don't know.
They sent an intern. They sent an intern to the pet store, and they were like, "Just get something wacky." And they were like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I mean, the hedgehog was spiky."
Come back with something. Yeah.
The hedgehog's.
I'm hoping it will continue because the sex dungeon has just kind of become a thing. Here. And my dream will be that, like, during some of the scenes that are going to be very uncomfortable physically and emotionally to watch, I want to see that hedgehog in the background just on a, like, hamster wheel living its best life.
Yeah. and it's like squeaking. It's like.
Right.
are
the
fucked
actual-
up.
Or is like the
looking at that.
sadist villain, gonna like carry him around like Dr.
Yes.
Evil and like stroke. Like I have so many questions about this hedgehog. It's like Grandpa
Me
Ghost
too.
from Color Rush. If
Yeah, like honestly, as soon as I saw the hedgehog, that's all I could think about
Yes.
for the rest of the episode. It's-
Like, just there. It's probably just going to be
yeah,
there.
I mean,
and never
clearly I'm like
explained.
overseas. I've flown across an ocean and I'm still
funny.
thinking about that.
Oh,
hedgehog.
God bless Ken Porsche. It's so great. Okay. So,
Okay.
yeah, now we're going to get into the, I guess, sell us section. And so, look, we're going to try and mostly talk about these dramas without, like, major spoilers. I think we're all kind of, like, a little cautious of that. So I think you're okay to proceed. But, yeah, just wanted to say that first. And up first, we have Amy, and she's going to let you know what she is trying to sell us on.
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about Tomorrow, and I can guarantee you that I'm not going to hopefully spoil too much because I haven't finished the whole thing yet. I'm on episode 10, so I'm getting there. But I can't tell you how it ends because I can't tell you how it ends. But I can tell you what's going on so far and why I love it. So in Tomorrow, Rowoon, who, by the way, we talked a while ago about what our age floors are for, who we crush on in K-dramas and our age ceilings. And we know that Leah does not have a ceiling, I don't think. But I think I have lowered my age floor specifically for Rowoon. And I know that this means that I have to watch The King's Affection now because I am heavily in love with this actor. And anyway, so in Tomorrow, Rowoon plays Choi Jun-woong, a young guy who just wants to make his mother and sister proud by landing a respectable job. He is charming as hell in interviews, but he gets passed over again and again. And we see in the first episode that once more he gets passed over for a position due to his counterpart being hired because of nepotism. So he had no chance. One night, when he's wallowing in his feels over not getting a job, walking across a bridge, he sees a man trying to jump off said bridge and intervenes to try and save him, not knowing that two Grim Reapers, who are part of Heaven's risk management team, are there to do the exact same thing. So Jun-woong goes over the bridge with the man, and while the stranger is saved, he ends up in a coma and in deep shit with the Jade Emperor and the risk management team up in heaven. So to make up for almost botching their job of saving someone from taking their own life, he's offered a deal. If he works for the risk management team for 6 months, he'll come out of his coma right as rain and be able to go back to his life. Otherwise, his coma will last 3 years. Yikes. So he reluctantly takes the deal to help the RM team, risk management. And from here, we get many vignettes, like Megan was saying, very episodic sort of episodes of people, and yes, maybe a dog, who want to take their own lives for various reasons, the Reapers who try to stop them, and the overarching framework of our Reapers' backstories that encompass their own agendas of why they are even on the risk management team. So there's a lot going on just to set this drama up, which I think is really good, because even though the episodes themselves are vignettes that last like maybe 1 or 2 episodes, you still have this framework story that kind of keeps you intrigued and wanting to know more. But like Megan was saying before, you don't need to binge. And I don't think that this is a bad thing, because you can still have a life and watch this drama. And, like I'm, double dipping doing Prison Playbook as well, because we had that one coming up on the podcast. So what originally drew me to this drama was that it was about Grim Reapers. I've had a thing for Reapers since Goblin, and maybe even before Lee Dong-wook played, I think, the best Reaper that we've, all ever seen. I actually have a synopsis for a Grim Reaper young adult novel series that I may or may not write someday, but honestly, like, that was all it took to sell me on the premise of this drama, is that it was about Grim Reapers. Then it only took 1 episode to hook me. And I know that some of you are probably thinking, okay, but it's like about a really sensitive subject, which it is. It's about suicide. Like, every person that the Reapers try to help is somebody who wants to take their own life for one reason or another. And so, yes, they give a trigger warning, a content warning at the beginning of every episode. But for some reason, this subject matter is working the way that the writers are treating it. So let's talk about like how I feel about it. overall? Like, first of all, can we say Rowoon 10 times? Because that might give you an idea of my feels. But for real, and here's the weird thing. Like, I laugh out loud just about every episode because the comedy in this is top notch. But I've also cried in more than one episode, probably almost as many as I've laughed. So how this drama balances tear-inducing comedy with extremely emotional and poignant stories about people who have lost their will to live speaks to some really good nuanced writing. It somehow all works. Plus, because the show is, like I said, the vignettes, it is satisfying to watch an episode or two and then kind of go on about your day and come back to it when you have the time to. I don't think a drama needs to be bingeable to be good, and I think Tomorrow is a great example of how this works. So we're talking about comps for our dramas as well, and Megan had mentioned Move to Heaven, which I think is a really good comp for this because just like Move to Heaven was very sort of episodic, but then had the framework story, this works in very much the same way. It's a little bit longer than Move to Heaven, but it's still like you can have that satisfying sort of ending to the immediate story and be able to take a break, which I think is kind of helpful sometimes when you have life outside of K-drama, which none of us want to have life outside of K-drama, but we do. And I also mentioned Goblin. I think Goblin's a great comp as well because if there's like the one or two of you out there who haven't seen Goblin, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but there are some similarities in the role of a Reaper in Goblin and in Tomorrow as well, as far as, kind of like how you get the job. Why should everybody watch it? Or at least why should you two watch it? Like, I already sold Megan on it. She already started. And I think that, Megan, I think you're agreeing so far as, how it's working weirdly with the comedy and the heavy subject matter. Leah, you already love Rowoon from The King's Affection. And I just know that you're gonna like love the mysterious Lee Soo-hyuk as the leader of the Escort Reaper team, who that team brings the souls over to the other side. I've already shown you like screen grabs of him, and he dresses like Neo from the Matrix and gives some Adam Driver, Kylo Ren vibes. So, if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I do want to add that I totally agree with you on like this weird juxtaposition between humor and like the subject matter. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're striking this really delicate balance that is great. I love it.
I wasn't expecting it, and
me either.
And every time it happens, I'm like, am I allowed to be laughing right now? Like, look at this, but like right. It just like there's no poking fun at suicide or anything like that. It is not that at all. Like the funny moments come, like you said, like balanced against the really heavy stuff, and it's just it's done really well.
I think Rowoon plays this like perfect. He just plays the perfect character that like helps there be comedy, but yet he also can really be vulnerable and emotional and like I said, I'm only on episode 10 of 16, and the growth that his character has had already, I don't know how this is going to end, and I kind of like that I get to talk about it, that I'm, really excited about this drama, not knowing where it's going to go, because the possibilities are really kind of endless. So I really like that about it. The whole main cast is a great ensemble. Like, I'm intrigued by our main Reapers' backstories and what their end game is, because they do have their own agendas and goals. Like, they are not just like part of this team for the heck of it. And in the first half of the drama, very little has been revealed, so I have no idea where this sort of framework story is going. Rowoon's character is really coming into his own by the end of the first half as far as being good at his quote-unquote job, which is really all he's ever wanted. So I think there's a little bit of irony in that all he's wanted is to have a good job that he's good at, and here he's found one, but he's literally like his corporal body is in a hospital bed in a coma while he's, walking around in another sort of skin suit. Like, he's not himself, which I think is also really funny. Like, we see him as Rowoon, but then, you get a glimpse of him in, a mirror or, a window, and he's like this, middle-aged man, and it's... Yeah, it's just some old dude.
It's really funny.
So great.
Like, acting like a 25-year-old guy. And I know he wants to get back to his grieving mother and sister who have hit hard financial times due to his hospital bills, but I have a feeling he's going to be really torn about leaving his place on the RM team. And also, I feel like there's some really cool like special effects in some of the episodes that give me like Christopher Nolan vibes, like a la Inception and Tenet. And it's just a very unique drama with an equally unique premise that somehow works as long as the subject of suicide isn't too triggering for the viewer. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say enough. Like, I'm just really, really enjoying it. It's really different, I think, than anything I've watched so far, even though we've got some comps to it. And I think you both would really like it.
I just want to say 100% agree about the Christopher Nolan Inception-like special effects. I was super impressed. I thought it looked really awesome, and it did really remind me of Inception.
And I also just want to give like a shout out to the actors, because like I'm really only mentioning Rowoon and like Lee Soo-hyuk a little bit, but like it is a great ensemble. Like the RM team that he's working with also has Kim Hee-sun and Yeon Ji-yeon, and then our King of Heaven, or our Jade Emperor, is Kim Hae-suk from what do you call it? Hospital Playlist, right? She's Rosa from Hospital Playlist, and she is basically like the Queen of Heaven, and she's fantastic. So I'm really excited to see what it's really all about, because definitely our Reapers have backstories that are very, very much haunting them right now, and I want to find out what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, I'm in for any... Hang on, sorry, somebody's trying to call me. I'm in for anything that has Rowoon in that kind of a suit, because I mean, that's just like it's a whole situation. Like you said, it gives off that Matrix.
Yeah. Well, no, Rowoon's not wearing that. He's not
in suit. He's in suits.
Oh, he's in suits, but he's not like Matrixy looking.
No, well, I don't know.
Neo
Sometimes is in just that black suit with the white and the tie.
Yes, he is. Oh, yeah. So he is just in the suit, but it's Lee Soo-hyuk who's the one who is very Neo-ish.
Okay.
She's always got the trench coat. And
yeah, fair. But I guess
he does not smile. Yeah, it's good stuff.
He looks like a vampire.
Yeah. I mean, Reaper, I will watch anything Reaper. I mean, I feel like you had a very not difficult time selling me on this drama, because first it's Rowoon, and secondly, I think that like I will watch anything with Reapers from like this point forward until like, I don't know. I don't think I can get exhausted from that trope. I don't think that we've ever seen Reapers quite projected the way, I mean, because Tail the Nine-Tailed, I loved how they projected like the underworld as almost like exasperated, office stuff. And then they had that same vibe a little bit going into like Goblin. And so is there an exasperation that happens in Tomorrow? Because I do like that. Like,
oh gosh, yes. Like they have meetings.
Yes.
And there is this guy who is, like, you think it's the same guy who's, like, sort of, like, at the registration desk, and he's all over the place, but he's, like...
100%. There's, like, these office workers. It's so funny.
This man who's, like, the same person, like, all over the place. It's really funny. Like, when they're in heaven, yes, there's definite exasperation. They have, like, team meetings, and they have... I mean, Megan, this is not a spoiler. I don't think you've gotten there yet, but there is an IT incident, like, where they're computers go down, and the way that they find out that somebody needs their help on the risk management team is it's an app on their phones, and when their network goes down, they have to find out who at this like one office is the one who needs their help without being able to see them on the app. So they're trying to like
yeah, the app is really a cool, that's another thing too, they have like an app.
Yes.
Like it's so cool. It's really, like, honestly, it feels very unique and fresh to me as a whole concept. And the look of it's
just
drama.
Really, I like it a lot. It's got some style.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's visually stunning. Okay, and now we have our favorite segment of the podcast, and that is the K-pop Rec of the Week. And this week we have Leah.
Whew. So it has been 48 hours. So I'm not going to get deep into the shitstorm that has taken ARMY by, I don't know, our metaphorical boobs and balls, because it's been a lot. But just to sum it up really quickly before I move into our rec, because I feel like you can't make the rec of the week, if you're me, without acknowledging kind of like the elephant in the room, which is it has been an unusual, let's say, comeback for BTS. So many of us, especially in the West, are more of like the pandemic armies. So getting into, at a time after they've done some of like their more seminal work, like, culminating with Map of the Soul 7. And so basically what we have found out is they've like released this anthology Proof as like a retrospective of their past 9 years, is that they're going to take some time. Hiatus is a word being used. It could be a sabbatical. They're going to take some time from producing group content and the musical content. They are not going to be going on a world tour right now. They are going to figure out what they want to say as BTS as a whole group. And in the meantime, they are going to be focusing on some solo work that is going to be getting the full Hybe album machine treatment. So these are not mixtapes that are just going to be kind of like released into the ether. These are going to be like big money investment behind the albums, kicking off with J-Hope, who is going to be doing his first solo performance at Lollapalooza in Chicago this summer. And so, yeah, there's a lot going on. By the time this airs, we may have more answers on what's happening with BTS military enlistment. There's a lot of pretty solid rumors that like those announcements are forthcoming soon. So there's a lot happening. If you listen to BTS, if you're ARMY, if you're not ARMY and you just like the band, if you're just aware that K-pop exists. My mother-in-law at the table yesterday was like, I heard BTS broke up. That's the group you like. And I was like, take those words out of your mouth. I think that this is a rich topic for our podcast in the future, not to like tease some things that we may have in the works. But I think the idea that they're taking a break to find creative voice in an industry which that we have all like, not to draw say K-pop's like romance writing, but these are both like commercial entertainment spaces where you do create content at a very brisk pace. And sometimes you can lose what you're trying to do or sense of self in trying to produce content so rapidly. And so I believe that is basically the sentiment that was acknowledged by the leader, Kim Namjoon, or Rap Monster, or RM. And I think that's something that we can really respect as creatives as well. So from that, Proof is a really fun anthology. I think it's a really great overview. And if you listen to it, I think you really get a sense of like who BTS is. There are there's 3 like brand new tracks that are on the album. And the one that I want to make a recommendation for tonight is Not Yet to Come, because I do think Yet to Come, look, I'm here for nostalgic music. I enjoyed the song. I think given like the context of where they're going right now, it's even more poignant. But I'm also down for just like a good ass-shaking anthem. So I'm going with Run BTS, which is truly the song on the album that I think is like, a really fun standout. It may not be like my favorite song of theirs of all time, but I think it's got high energy. It's really fun. And there's a section in it that I think is going to be really amazing. And I saw somebody kind of break this down on TikTok, maybe. A friend shared it, that there's a time in the song where they kind of go through the members' names and talk about like, I'm proud of you and like how you've grown up and like where you're at. And that hits well right now. But I just think that eventually we are going to have that world tour again. We are going to be able to like see them in person. We're going to be able to see this performance and the song live. And I think that sense of like being proud of them at that point in the future, the song's going to have even more like emotional impact and resonance. And I'm really excited for when that day can come. So my rec of the week is Run BTS, which is one of the new songs off their anthology Proof.
I love that song too. So I'm glad you made that recommendation.
Yeah, it's fun. Really, it makes you want to just shake your ass, honestly.
It does. It's so fun. And it's like really upbeat.
Yeah, that too.
Well, it kind of makes me want to
shake your ass and like, boss out. Yep.
Like a good gym, if you need like a workout song, it's perfect.
If you enjoy our podcast, you have our patrons to thank, at least in part. Afternoona Delight Patreon allows us to keep creating content for y'all to enjoy. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us there. And not to brag, but our Patreon community is pretty awesome. And you can join at a tier that feels good to you. gain access to fun perks like K-drama posts, monthly Patreon-only bonus podcasts, and even a live K-drama support group on Zoom. Because we know firsthand what it's like to have no one to talk to about those crazy plot twists, amazing characters, and all those feelings. And look, no one should have to walk that walk alone. So learn more by visiting afternoonadelight.com. That's www.afternoonadelight.com. And hey, while you're on the website, you can check out Afternoona Delight podcast merch, find links to book recommendations, bop along to our K-pop Recs, glow up your skin with K-merch Recs, find all of our social media, and a link to our email so you can send us recommendations or feedback. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you pop over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review? It really helps with our discoverability. 감사합니다.
Okay, so Amy, I don't think you had such a difficult time selling us on a drama that one of us you've already sold on, and the other has like a thing for both the main lead plus the concept overall. I will say I think I have a uphill task, but I am here for it, and I don't mind hard work. So the drama that I am going to attempt to sell you both on is Our Blues. And a brief premise is, so first of all, it's available on Netflix. For me, this is the best K-drama I've seen in 2022. And I think now it is in my all-time top 10. I need to write out my top 10 list. I really like making top 10, top 5, top 3 lists. They hurt me and I enjoy it and I don't know why. And so I think this one I am now going to say is in my top 10. And on the surface, look, the show appears to be this quirky slice of life drama all about a community of folks living in Jeju, South Korea's largest island. And it uses the main market as a hub of action. This is also a masterful drama of characterization. And it really takes its time. I'm going to make this point a number of different times during my sales pitch. But I think it's something that gets stronger as you watch it, which is always my favorite in a K-drama, as when I feel like it just keeps getting better. And it's 20 episodes, but the series really ties itself together in this complex story of over a dozen characters. And in the end, you're kind of left with this unforgettable picture of love, family, forgiveness, and what it truly means to be a community. And I think, anyone who's watched even a handful of Korean dramas understand that the storylines often deal with things like child abuse or debt, potentially unexpected pregnancy, bullying, prejudice against the disabled, death by suicide. Our Blues has all of this. And yet I think it resolves these heavy topics in meaningful ways that doesn't ever get too saccharine. And so look, the drama starts off slowly. And honestly, I disliked a few of the initial characters who get most of the focus, enough that I almost DNF'd in the first couple of episodes. But again, that slow, steady pacing is really intentionally part of the point, and real life resolutions don't occur immediately. But there is this very true catharsis when they do. And I still don't know why I was so dry-eyed for my mister. I enjoyed the drama, but look, I was really looking to have this cathartic weeping experience that so many had, and I didn't. But my cheeks were wet with Our Blues. It hurt me, and it truly did heal me. So, what drew me to start the drama? The opening vignette was really rough for me, so I really want to make the point that it starts off to me emotionally rough. I didn't enjoy the characters much, especially the first main male character that we see. But by the end of his vignette, I really did find some peace with where he went. But stick in, because the drama gets its hooks into your heart at the beginning of episode 4. And I want to give a general premise. There's some spoilers here, but not really. It's pretty laid out clearly what the conflict is. So we have childhood best friends, Ho-sik, who's a single dad, and he's an ice seller. So he sells ice to the fishmongers at the market. Right. And, he's lower middle class, hard worker, and he lives with and lives for his bright daughter, Youngju. Really, she's his reason for everything. Mm-hmm. And Also in their apartment building is In Kwon, who's a former gangster who also now has turned into a food stall owner. And he's very busy raising his bright son, Jung Hyun. So these days, the fathers almost comically despise each other for painful reasons that eventually get revealed. But at the beginning, you just see that they like hate each other and they're constantly just having these like ridiculous like arguments everywhere. So neither of them, and this is an understatement, are remotely stoked to find out that Youngju, who is the number one student at the school, has become secretly pregnant by her number two classmate, Jung Hyun. So, yeah. So these like two dads who like were such good friends have had this very painful falling out. Both live for their children, have huge dreams for their children. Their children are like the brightest sparks in the school. Well, they got busy on some, on some off time. And they even talk about how they wore a condom. But she's like, did you buy this cheap, shitty condom? And we find out like the dad had given him the condom. Anyway, she's not stoked to find out she's pregnant either. So the dads pressure the two to abort the pregnancy. And the teenagers end up taking this unwavering stance. And honestly, it is not this pro-choice versus pro-life situation, because I think that would have just taken me out of the drama altogether. Like if we had gone into something like that, I think I would have just pieced out. But it felt like this realistic, although probably too idealistic view of these young people making like this plan that they're like, you know, we're going to keep the baby. Papa don't preach. We're in trouble deep, but like I'm keeping my baby.
I like that plot a lot.
And they make a plan to have the girl attend university first. The dad's going to stay home with the baby, and after 4 years, the child will be old enough for preschool, and the dad could head off to medical school. So, I mean, look, idealistic, yes. But, you know, it also becomes very charming in the context of the plot. There are difficult segments where In Kwon, the former gangster dad, really does beat the shit out of his son for defying him and keeping the baby. And Ho Sik really emotionally damages his daughter by threatening to cut her out of his life. But eventually we see these two guys have to make this decision. Are they going to continue to treat their children as funnels for their own egos and like missed opportunities? Or are they going to allow them to make their own life choices and try to take responsibility, and in doing so, heal their past rift? So I felt like this was a Romeo and Juliet trope that was done very well. And from the point of the drama from there, the whole show just goes from strength to strength for me. And there's so many stories. This is just one, so that's why I don't feel like it's a spoiler. And overall, I'm going to say this is like a 5 out of 5 drama for me. A comp, like I said earlier, it really is like My Mister and Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha Had a Baby. It's more raw than, say, the Reply series or Hospital Playlist. But as I loved those and love this, I do think that they're good comps. I think the difference is that not all the characters are really particularly likable. But as you learn their stories and watch them have like a defined arc, you really feel hopeful. And I think the drama is very realistic, as much as a guy who looks like Kim Woo-bin can be like living in a bus as a fishing captain, who's also this gentle giant, can be realistic. But here's some reasons I think you should watch it. I think the human condition is always fascinating. There are no office politics or palace politics. So, you know, we have this heavy characterization that's happening, but we don't have like these like behind the scenes grappling. It is more just like really slice of life people living their lives. You know what I'm saying? And the setting of Jeju, we don't have like endless dark, endless winter. The island is very beautiful. It's very lovely. But for some of these characters, it also does feel like a prison because it's an island and you're trapped by the sea. And I feel like if you want to take your time with a community that's going to end up feeling like family by the end, you should watch it. And of particular note, I really appreciated that many of the women are Hanyo, the traditional female divers. And this ranges from young women who are like quite physically strong and kind of just beginning their careers to very elderly women who have been doing this for a long time and are honestly, frankly, just badass. And to like cap it all off as the cherry on top, Kim Woo-bin is their boat captain. So, like, he's taking these, like, badass women out day after day to, like, do their thing in the ocean. So, while he's, like, you know, giant badass, he's, like, not the hero of the story, right? These women really are. And then something else I do want to add is there is a character who has Down syndrome, which is not something I've really seen explored in K-drama overall. I do think it's done well, albeit painfully at times, but there's an odd part that also could be a translation issue where they allude that she once suffered from schizophrenia, but doesn't now. And I felt like that, like, kind of like treatment of mental illness does come across a little bit ham-fisted, and frankly, it's just not possible. And just as a side note, like, people with Down syndrome actually statistically have less of a chance of developing schizophrenia. So it kind of reminded me, Amy, of when we watch Boys Over Flowers and we find out that, like, one of the F4 members was, like, said to have been healed from his autism by, like, the power of, like, teenage love. So, you know, no. And I don't know if this is an odd translation. It is Netflix after all, but it is a little jarring to have that statement come up, and it's definitely problematic. But given that the rest is so well done and thoughtful and sensitive, I do want to flag it because, like, it did stick out for me in watching it, and I didn't want to, like, have this recommendation go without kind of, like, pointing out that bit.
You did a good job, but honestly, all you had to say was Kim Woo Bin. That's all you and he's alive at the end of the drama. Like,
I will say, look, if my Mister would have focused way more on his community and neighborhood, I would have liked it more. So actually telling me that it's kind of a cross between my Mister and that it's a lot of, like, inner workings of, like, the human condition crossed with, like, more neighborhood stuff and a community like Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha, that does sell me.
Yeah, so it's much more, it is exactly like if you looked at the neighborhood and these people that are, like, flawed humans living in the neighborhood, that's what this drama is. That
was the best. That's the part of my Mister I enjoyed, and that's what I talked about in the podcast. I really liked that part. And so to me, I actually wasn't sure about this, but you did a good job. Yeah, I mean, I want to see that.
I just, like I said, I almost didn't finish it, and that would have been a real tragedy. It's just I was very much like, ew, this is not, like, I don't like this at all. And I think you'll probably feel that way, too. It's not that it's not interesting, but it's not, like, nice.
And it's good to know that sometimes, like, sometimes dramas do have to, like, get their stride, and sometimes it doesn't happen until, 4 or 5.
A middle-class man being sensitive at the expense of a woman and her happiness is how the first 3 episodes go. And they're not making excuses for it, but you have to be on that journey to start it, which is ew. But they also, like, the show is saying it's ew, too, I guess.
Right, yeah. But I'm willing to give it a chance, for sure.
Yeah. So this is just much less, like, I feel like Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha has more of, like, a Disney version of what Our Blues ultimately is. And also, I have to say that it was a true delight, and probably, like, one of the surprise takeaway wins for me was to see Lee Jung-un, who, was our, like, cannibalistic housekeeper in Strangers from Hell, who's been in, like, I feel like every drama I've watched lately. It was really good to just watch her, like, not be a crazy person. And to just be this, like, very feisty middle-aged woman who is working class and calls people out in their bullshit and, like, doesn't have, like, a husband hidden in a basement, isn't noshing on folks, like, hasn't abandoned her child. Like, she's just, like, she's, like, the beating heart of the community.
Yeah, because she was the mom in When the Camellia Blooms, too, right?
Absolutely.
Now it's my turn. So look, I am going to try, this actually might be kind of a hard sell, but I'm going to try and sell you guys on Military Prosecutor Doberman. And this is starring An Bo-hyun as Doberman and Jo Boa as Cha Woo-in. So just for the record, we previously saw Jo Boa in Tail the Nine-Tailed. That was the heroine, which I liked her in Tail the Nine-Tailed. She's the source of Who Raised Gia. So, in Military Prosecutor Doberman, Doberman is a slightly crooked or maybe really crooked military prosecutor who is always chasing more money and more power. I mean, I do want to say he's a shitty person in the beginning, and actually but he's, like, shitty in, like, a charming, snarky way. And you kind of could see there was, like, something beneath him, but he's definitely pretty unlikable at the beginning. I mean, he's still An Bo-hyun. But I liked that because I was like, okay, where are they going to take this character? Like, I love that they kind of took a risk on making the male lead because he's definitely more of, like, the lead even over
do you mean she has
Jo Boa, but making the male lead super unlikable from the get-go is kind
not
of
an alter ego.
So anyway, he's kind of a crappy person until he meets his new military prosecutor partner, Cha Woo-in. And we then learn she kind of has, like, an alter ego but we learn she has an alter ego and that her appointment at his side was really no coincidence. So she's had her eyes on Doberman for a while. Doberman, of course, his parents died when he was a kid, because that's just, that's just what K-dramas do. But we don't know the details of his parents' death, just that they died in a car accident, and that's all Doberman thinks. But Cha Woo-in knows what really happened. And so she basically shows him, look, your place is not as a crooked military prosecutor, but it's at my side getting revenge on who killed your parents.
So not like the
they
office
also
politics in my
dad.
mister.
Yeah, so... Yes! Well, she has both. She has an alter ego...
An alter ego with an ulterior motive.
Thank you.
Is what you're saying.
That's exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you, Amy. So she does. She has an alter ego with an ulterior motive. God, see, this is why we work together. Anyway, so they really are facing an uphill battle, because it's basically they need to fight kind of this. I'm going to use layman's terms, because I don't know all the terms of like the top dogs in the military of South Korea, but yeah, there's basically a council of like military elite that they have to fight. And I really like that among the military elite, the members were jockeying for power as well, and in a way that I cared. Like, I felt invested in who was going to win or lose. They did a good... Right, like, I didn't necessarily care who won or lost that, but in this one, I do care, because there's almost levels of who is bad, and then just kind of like, you kind of knew which final villain that they were going to fight, and you wanted that showdown to happen. And, I just really love the Doberman. His character is so good. He's capable. He's snarky. He has a great character arc, because he really, he then kind of has to, like, reconcile what he did in the past. I mean, he was a shitty person, and he hurt people, and people that were powerless, and he didn't help them. And so he really has to reconcile that with the new path he's on, because Cha Woo-in kind of is like, look, you're a crappy person, but you can change who you were. And she's really great. She's like an alpha female. She's got these like kick-ass physical skills, which were they believable? Like, hell no. She's like, she's like small. And I mean, they would have her take on like 10 full-grown men that were supposed to be gangsters. And like, I mean, just put them out. Like, all of a sudden they just like passed out, like that kind of fighting. And it was hysterical. I was like, look, I'm not saying a woman can't do that, but like, no one can. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I also didn't care, because like, it felt good to watch her just like kick the shit out of like 10 guys. I was like, sure. I like, sign me up. I'll watch her. Like at one point, I think she like whips off a windshield wiper and is just like whipping these men. Okay. And it's like, and it's like on a bridge. I mean, it's so ridiculous. And I was like, this is great. Like, this is so entertaining to me. Like, thank you. I'll watch this. Yeah, and she's also really smart, and she is pretty, like, closed off, but she is loyal to the people who are close to her. So, look, I wasn't gonna watch this drama. I was really kind of turned off by the title, because it was just really weird. I remember I said
it's not the best.
Right, I told my husband, I was like, I'm watching Military Prosecutor Doberman, and he just looked at me and he goes, those words do not go together. And I was like, I know it's weird. But I got it as I watched it. I mean, his name is Doberman, which obviously sounds like Doberman, and there is a Doberman dog. It's not his, but well, it's a long story. But there is one in the drama. There are many references to how he's kind of like a loyal dog. Like he would say like he was kind of a loyal dog to like the bad guys, but then he was like, you know what, Cha Woo-in, I'll be your loyal dog, which was like a little kinky to me. I was kind of into it. So
yeah, I think you just sold me.
Like at one point he looks at her and he's like I'm your loyal dog. You tell me where to bite and I'll bite. I'm like, ooh. So, but not that they didn't say it in a sexy way, but like I took it that way because I'm just going to. Anyway, and then like straight up shallow reasons, I watched it for An Bo Hyun. Like, it's no secret that I love him, but it's really not just for his looks. I love him as an actor, and I like the roles he chooses, and the characters he plays. And I did really like Joe Boa in Tell the Night-Tailed. But really, it's like An Bo-hyun in an action role that had him in like a military uniform a lot. And I was into that. So I would give this like a solid 4 out of 5. It was fun. It was full of action. And it had some external conflict and battle for power that I felt invested in. And look, Doberman really had like a whole character arc where he did some terrible things, and he really had to kind of learn like what forgiveness was and how he can't just like, I like kind of the storyline where he just can't be like, forgive me, so you have to forgive me. Like you have to like take actions, and you also have to accept if that person is never going to forgive you. And I love that. And I liked his character growth. I thought he ended the drama just being like a great dude, as opposed to, the shitty one he started out with. And they didn't shy away from putting him kind of like through the ringer on that either. So, and there are a lot of characters and a lot of moving parts. I mean, you definitely got some scenes where that's like just the villains when they're plotting. But I still had many moments where I gasped. I did not see the twisting and turning of the plot coming. So I would say the action felt less like My Name, which was like really brutal, really bloody, sad, just fighting, and a lot more like Lawless Lawyer. And which Lawless Lawyer really is my direct comp for this drama. If you liked Lawless Lawyer, I truly think you'll like Military Prosecutor Doberman. They had similar vibes, kind of this like revenge plot against people with power that felt, untouchable. But of course, we have scrappy leads who find the way. And like Lawless Lawyer, the big baddie is a very capable, but also like a pretty scary woman, which I like that about Lawless Lawyer too.
I mean, I'll talk about that. Yeah, the Lawless Lawyer part is what gives me the pause.
I know. I don't know. I would say I can't decide which one I liked better, because I did like An Oh-ju, but I would say overall as a lead, I liked An Bo-hyun better, and I thought An Bo-hyun had a better like character arc than Lee Joon-gi in Lawless Lawyer. So one thing I do want to say is that there's not much romance. It's very, very subtle between Doberman and Sha Woo-in, but here's why I was okay with it. So they started out pretty wary of each other for good reason. Like, An Bo-hyun's basically like, you're not going to mess up what I got going on because I get paid to be crooked and I want money and power. And she, as now that I have the right term, she has an ulterior motive.
Unrequited love showers because of her.
And, but they slowly, throughout the drama, become very close, and they learn to trust each other and become very important in each other's lives. And they actually developed what I think is like a beautiful friendship. Like, I have to be honest, like in Lawless Lawyer, there was a romance, but the romance was like super, it was what was like flat and empty. And so where Military Prosecutor Doberman didn't necessarily have like a physical romance, I thought the relationship between them was better. They had like conversations about like Doberman had to like talk through his like midlife crisis with her, and he's like, I was a terrible person, and she's like, well, here are the steps you can take to be a better person. And like, you know what I mean? That was like a real friendship, and they came to like really care about each other, and not in a way that was just like, well, the script says you're my love interest. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it sounds fun to me. Like, I liked Lawless Lawyer. I'm here for action being a big part of the plot.
But yeah, by the end, that friendship was blossoming into more. Like, they definitely alluded to that. And I guess, I was okay with that. I was invested in like their undefinable relationship as much as I would have been if it was a very clear romance. So I would say, if you ask me, is there a romantic HEA? I would say it's implied, but I felt content. To me, I think this drama maybe just had a little bit more heart when it came to the good guys, if that makes sense. Like, there was kind of a really neat crew, and overall, it was that core friendship that gave me the feels, you know what I mean, for this drama. So, look, it's fun, it's twisty, the villains are great, and An Bo-hyun looks absolutely amazing. Like, I really want to talk to whoever was in charge of wardrobe, because they got it. Like, he was either in full military uniform, jeans and a leather jacket with, like, a tight t-shirt, because of course, or, like, a custom tailored suit. Like, at one point, he's, like, running around in this, like, custom maroon tailored suit, and I am like, you gotta be kidding me. And also he might have been, in sweatpants with no shirt a time or two. But really, it's a fun plot, and I had no idea how it was going to end. And look, I would say, like, if you're in the mood for a drama that's it's not going to put you through, like, an emotional ringer. There's, like, angst, but it's, like, an action kind of angst. Does that make sense? So, it's not gonna kill you. I do want to add, though, some trigger warnings. These are military prosecutors, so they're dealing with, like, real traumatic crimes. Like, among the, like, humor and the twists and turns, there's some real serious stuff going on. So there's definitely some extreme bullying, like, enough to make me, like, really cringe. A few references to sexual assault, and then there is, like, a mass shooting. So just, like, anyway, I want to give a trigger warning for those things, but I think the drama handles it well, or handles everything well. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's, I love how I'm like, there's a mass shooting, but it's a fun watch. Like, but I mean, I'll say, to me, An Bo-hyun, I want him to be in more roles like this, because I really think he's kind of made for these, like, action roles where he gets to be charming. He does humor really, really well, and he doesn't always get to do humor in some of his dramas. I thought his humor was fantastic in Yumi's Cells. Banter with Cha Woo-in was wonderful. It's just you have to be prepared to not like him when you start out. I mean, they try to curb it a little bit, but you're like, no, he's kind of a terrible person, but he has really great character growth, and yeah, I was into it. And yes, there's a Doberman with a diamond collar.
And something else I just want to say as, like, kind of like a tangent, but, like, sometimes I'm careful, and I know it's ridiculous because these are people that don't know we're live. But I've tried to give you space in some of your fantasy areas to, like, not encroach. And I've tried to do this with An Bo-hyun, and I've tried to do it with Tom Hardy a little bit. But the truth of the matter is that, like, even though I know that An Bo-hyun is, like, your K-drama, like, boyfriend, and, like, I'm happy for the two of you and wish you, like, a long life together, and I support that, like, I do feel like sometimes I am going to crawl through his bedroom window at night. And, like, it's just what it is.
Right. Same. No, there was someone tweeted a picture from, like, Yumi's Cells 2, and it's Kim Go-eun, Ji Young from GOT7,
he's amazing,
and An Bo-hyun, and they're all wearing baseball hats. And I'm just like, when I first saw the picture, didn't even know who was in the photo with him, because all I saw was An Bo-hyun and how good he looks in a baseball hat, that I honestly retweeted it without even knowing who else was in the photo, which is terrible, because I love both those other actors, but, like, I was that distracted. I just love him. And again, he's just so good in this drama, and it just is a great role for him. He's so good at action. He's so freaking tall. At one point, this whole, like, scene didn't even seem like it was necessary. They one time, like, had him jump into, like, a lake or river fully clothed. He didn't need to. Like, they tried to be like, that's the only way he can escape. I don't really think so. It didn't matter. So he's, like, drenched, and you're just like, great.
I think, too, like, he's not as weird, and I don't think he would, like, really be allowed to honestly be as eccentric and weird, because he's in dramas, not in, like, cinema as much, to be like Tom Hardy. But there is something about both of them that like is not dissimilar too. Like I could see him like being unleashed in the same way that Tom Hardy has like is fully unleashed if he ever got into like film.
I absolutely think so, because so I know in My Name that he played a pretty conventional character, but the risks that plot kind of took and like where it took his character, I think he probably loved it. He's probably
I think he's a weirdo. I think he's a weirdo to his bones.
I think he's a total weirdo. He loves to get beat up. Like even in Military Prosecutor Doberman, he's like, of course, he's like beat up at one point, like just bloody. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like
the emotional pain that he allows to be inflicted on him in Her Private Life, which is like a cotton candy feminist drama.
Yeah. Yeah. And he just loves to like get beat up or die. And it it just, anyway, I love him.
Please make me not happy ever.
Yeah, I would love to see him in something like just crazy for sure, like a Tom Hardy like Taboo situation.
Yeah, I want. I mean, don't
Can you imagine
if he was in a K cinema version of Taboo? I would lose my fucking mind.
Yeah. Well, look, if anyone
I would be
has seen
knocking you over out of the way to crawl to him.
Yeah. Like, look, so I watched One Night in Paradise, which is a K movie on Netflix, which is just
violent,
brutal. It's just brutal. It's just all violent. 100%, An Bo-hyun could have played that role. Absolutely, I can see him playing it. I would have been devastated, and actually, I wouldn't have seen it if he no way, because it's brutal. But I could see him in that role for sure. He's just that type of actor. So yeah, I just like him. I like the roles he chooses. I'm glad I saw Military Prosecutor Doberman, because it made me get to see him in like a little bit of a new light as well, based on what he's done. What was he in Her Private Life? Nam Eun-gi, right? Mm-hmm. So he's like Eun-gi
in that little tie, never getting the girl.
Oh my
god! Dressing
gosh.
up in the suit to make his play.
In Military Prosecutor Doberman, he's maybe like Eun-gi, who never got the girl, joined the military, and was like, I just want to be rich now, fuck the girls. And then he had to glow up and realize he was a shitty person. Yeah, basically. That's what it is.
So now that I'm like properly turned on, and problematically so.
Right, I
know. Let's just say, we've done some good job, I think, on doing some sales pitching here. I'm definitely intrigued in both.
Same.
But, what's an honorable mention? What is a drama that we've watched that, the others have not, and we think that they should? Like, what's something that we would like to do on the pod that we just want to be like, please, throw us a bone, y'all?
One that I watched a long time ago, that you guys haven't watched yet, and I hope that you someday do, is Legend of the Blue Sea. And I initially watched this drama for two reasons. Yes, because, Lee Min-ho, but also because the writer of Legend of the Blue Sea is the same writer as Crash Landing on You. And so this was in my early drama watching days that I was like, oh my gosh, Crash Landing on You, it's like the best writing ever. What else has she written and stuff like that? And it's very, very different. I mean, it's about a mermaid, right? It's a mermaid who comes to land to find her, generations old, reincarnated, true love. And it's Jung Ji-hyun who is the mermaid. And we know that she's amazingly beautiful and amazingly awesome at physical comedy from My Love from Another Star. And I saw her in this first, and I was like, who is this woman that it's like Lucille Ball level, physical comedy.
Yes, totally.
But like one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen,
Yes.
And it's all of that. It is not, it's not going to put you through the emotional ringer by any means. It is a lot of fun stuff, to look at. But, as far as the actors, but then also this was the first drama that I saw Sung Dong-il in, who, is dad in Reply 1988, and now we're watching him in Prison Playbook, and he is the villain in Legend of the Blue Sea, and that was the first thing I ever saw him in. So then when I saw him as this, sweet dad in Reply as a priest in Hospital Playlist. Like, it's funny that this was the first thing that I saw him in. And now it's kind of fun to go back, and watch him in Prison Playbook, where he more fits into that sort of, villainous role. But, it's just, I think it's a fun drama, and I think it would be a fun one to talk about, and, also a good romance, too.
I really do want to watch that, actually. Really, really want to watch it.
And for me, I know I still have an uphill climb, but me saying I will continue to make plugs for it's another slice of life drama, with the story essentially being centered around Gu Rei, who is played by Im Si-won, who I love him. I just love this guy. This little compact king is the best. And anyway, it is a story about, Reply 1988 really touched a lot on Baduk and what it's like to be a professional Baduk player. In Misang, Gu Rei fails right out of the gate. Like, the opening is he's not going to be a professional Baduk player. He's spent his whole life, much like Tech did as a young boy, like trying to like make it in the world of Baduk. He's very, very good, but he's not turning pro. However, he's done nothing else. He hasn't gone to college. He's got a high school degree, and that's it. And given the fact that, he was well regarded at playing Baduk, he gets hired as a temporary intern at One International, a great name, which is a big trading company in Seoul. So we do have all office politics, although in my mind, it is not cartoonish like I found My Mister to be, unfortunately. It feels like integral. It's set in an office. Just without like the humor of The Office. But, his manager, Sang-shik, is this workaholic who's got like a tsundere personality, but a heart of gold. There's Young-yi, who is another intern who is a woman and really kind of like shows like the difficulty of working as a woman in, a corporate environment in Seoul. She attracts everyone's ire because she is just freaking super competent at everything she does. And then we have Bat-gi, played by Kong Ha-nul, to like absolute perfection as this like geeky coworker who's like always adjusting his glasses and is kind of actually with like an anxious personality that masks the fact that he's like a shark inside. And so Gu Rei kind of is like this hapless yet Baduk playing savvy character who like kind of has to navigate and adapt to the corporate culture. And he uses Baduk as his guide to kind of achieve that.
I love that. And actually, I am interested in that. I don't necessarily mind office politics if they feel like really integral. You know what I mean? And really backed up with like solid characterizations. And so I honestly think it sounds good.
And it's more of the 20-something intern story with, like, seeing some of the older folks then who are kind of... I do like some of the friendships of the older characters, like the managers, because, like, they've been there and had to go through similar challenges. But it is more of that sense of, like, young people trying to make their way. But, oof, it's hard and good.
So mine is All of Us Are Dead. And I loved it for a lot of reasons that wasn't just zombies. So yes, it's a zombie drama, and that's definitely like how it was marketed. But sometimes I don't necessarily love that it gets passed off as just like, oh, it's one of those like it's another gory zombie drama. And like, yes, it is. But there was also a lot to this drama, and a lot that was also very specific to Korean society. That I read up on later, so I don't really like that it's sort of just like passed off as just like, you know what I mean, like a gory offering on Netflix, because it's really so much more than that. It's really backed up by these like real human emotions and interpersonal relationships. It's set in a school, so these are high school students, and so obviously and they feel like high school students. Like, that's another thing I really want to get across. Most of them were very young at filming. Like, they were like 19, 20, 21. So they're young, and they feel young in the drama. And I like that. I felt like they acted like teenagers. They acted like kids. And I feel like they had a lot of growth in how they related to each other. There was a lot of kind of nod to the Seawolf ferry disaster that I think is very important, not even just for like Koreans. I feel like that everything, what they were trying to say with this drama has, in my opinion, like universal, not appeal, connotations or relation, you can relate on a universal level. And it just really got me. Like, I don't know how to say it. It got me in like a gut heart level. And it was just greenlit for season 2. And normally I'm like, season 2 of K-dramas, I'm not into it. But you could tell at the end of this drama that they were setting you up for like more of the story.
Okay.
So
it fits.
Like, it absolutely fits. Like, and I did read a little bit about, I think they always intended to try to extend this story. So it doesn't just feel like they're tacking on. It feels like this was always the goal. Because honestly, like the last episode, I remember thinking, this can't be all. Oh my God, there's still more story to tell. Oh my God, there's more story to tell. You know what I mean? And, there's like different zombie lore, which is very cool. I always love kind of changes to the zombie lore. Like there was basically like, they call them like hambies because they're like half human, half zombies, which is really cool. And you kind of like learn. And, and I feel like in every zombie movie, there's like tells when you know a person's going to turn into a zombie. And of course, this one does. They like have nosebleeds, and just everything about it was so cool. And I'm really eager to see where season 2 the narrative takes these kids, and kind of like what else the narrative has to say. Because I think it had a lot to say in season 1.
I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, I do too.
It's just, and I mean, I don't know. I hope I'm not overselling it, but for me, it's still one of my favorite dramas of the year. And again, just like, it hit me. I think, honestly, anytime I see like clips from the show, I'm like taken back to like feeling like I did when I was watching it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's always kind of a clue that something really hit you.
All right. Well, I think we've all got some dramas to watch, because I feel pretty sold on Our Blues and on Military Prosecutor Doberman. That is not an easy one to say. That does not just roll off the tongue. But I'm going to watch it, even though I'm not going to say it again. So thank you all for listening. I hope we've sold you on some dramas as well. And if you've got some dramas, that you want to sell us on, you know where to find us. Instagram, email, all over the place. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time. Annyeong!
Annyeong!
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Make sure to subscribe for more great K-romance conversation. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Afternoona Delight Podcast for more information on our podcast, behind-the-scenes photos, and, of course, pics of our favorite oppas and anis. Annyeong!